Number 15. The Kuykendalls. In the wild corners of Washington state, 3 families found themselves ensnared in a nightmare beyond their comprehension. It began with murmured phone calls placed to their personal cell phones, turning their every buzz into paranoid fear. Heather Kuykendall recounted the chilling messages that besieged her family. The messages said, "You're going to die. We hate you. We're going to murder you," she revealed. And yet, the police, bewildered by the inexplicable nature of the harassing calls, found themselves coming up empty, as any sort of suspect evaded them. For the Kuykendall family, the nightmare began innocuously enough. A text message sent from their daughter's phone to their friends, without her sending it. From there, the threats began and quickly escalated. Callers saying they'd kill their grandparents, their children, and their pets. But the horror did not end with mere words. The perpetrators delved deeper into the family's private lives. The other families targeted had ties to the Kuykendall family. The callers knew their movements, their conversations, everything down to what they were wearing. The calls came at all hours and were strangely traced back to the Kuykendall family's own phones, even when they were shut off. Surveillance experts explained that cell phones can be operated remotely, saying you can track a person's position, you can take photographs, you can infiltrate every aspect of their lives. And this seems to be the case with the Kuykendall family. Their phones even shut off on their own. Their ringtones changed inexplicably, and the restricted phone calls continued to roll in. But even armed with this knowledge, traced calls led to dead ends. Investigations yielded no answers, and the family grew more and more anxious. Voicemails even began playing back recordings of private family conversations, and even a clip of a discussion with their local police detective, and a warning to them to stay away from the law. The case clearly seemed to be some sort of cell phone manipulation, but investigators were still clueless as to how and who. Pranksters? Cyberbullying? Maybe. Most calls seem to focus on the Kuykendall's teenage daughter, Courtney. One chilling message directed towards her stated ominously, "I know where you are. I know where you live. I'm going to kill you." But other messages were described as sounding juvenile, like a teenage prank. The case never saw any resolution. Once the FBI were involved, some sources say the calls ended, but the hacker was never found. Each of these cases leaves listeners with trepidation. In many, a phone call is often followed by fear and paranoia. Ring, ring. Don't answer that. Number 14. Kay Alana Turner. The Turner family from Maine had been living in a state of disbelief and despair for 407 long days. Every day, they pleaded on Facebook for any information that might lead them to their missing daughter, Kay Alana, who had gone missing in Tomball, Texas. One day, however, their search took a turn. Tim Miller, the resolute founder of Texas EcuSearch, let the anxious family know that human remains had been found by his volunteer search teams. Since the day in March of 2023 that 27-year-old Kay Alana disappeared, Texas EcuSearch had been unwavering in their efforts. Miller and his dedicated team had conducted at least 20 exhaustive searches. The area where the remains were ultimately found was dense with weeds and thick woods. Kay Alana's last known whereabouts were in Tomball. She had been experiencing a severe mental health crisis. She was seen on multiple Ring doorbell cameras, appearing disoriented and confused. On one, she appeared to believe she'd arrived at her friend's home. She fell asleep in someone's driveway, exhausted and distressed. When deputies attempted to wake her, she panicked, fleeing in her car and driving off erratically until she crashed into a wooden area. Despite the immediate efforts of the police, she exited her vehicle and vanished into the dense forest, leaving behind nothing but a cold trail. For nearly a year, search teams braved the underbrush and the elements, but each day they returned empty-handed. Yet Texas EcuSearch never gave up. Their perseverance was a testament to their commitment to their work, encouraged by the Turner family's unyielding hope. During what was scheduled to be their final search, the team made a grim discovery. The remains, found about 900 feet from where Kealana's car had last been seen, brought a mix of sorrow and relief to her loved ones. The proximity was a cruel reminder of how close she had been all along, hidden by the unforgiving landscape. The discovery of the remains plunged the family into a new kind of agony. While they had clung to the hope that she might be found alive, the reality of her death was now undeniable. Their focus shifted to finding answers. For the Turners, the past 407 days had been a grueling journey marked by heartache and uncertainty. It ended with a confirmation that their worst fears were realized. Although no foul play was suspected, the mystery of what truly unfolded in the final hours of Kealana's life remains. Number 13. Ellen Greenberg. A snowstorm blanketed Philadelphia on January 26, 2011, as 27-year-old elementary school teacher Ellen Greenberg made her way home early due to the inclement weather. Ellen stopped for gas at 1:30 p.m., then returned to the apartment she shared with her fiancé, Sam Goldberg. By evening, her lifeless body would be discovered, igniting a decade-long battle for justice. Sam Goldberg returned to their apartment at around 4:45 p.m. after a gym session, only to find himself locked out. The door was latched from the inside. Growing increasingly frustrated and worried, he texted Ellen multiple times, his messages escalating in urgency. "Hello, open the door," and "You better have an excuse." The message notifications rang out in the silent apartment, but Ellen didn't respond. Frustration turned to desperation as Sam contacted building security, only to be told they couldn't help. In a fit of panic, he forced the door open. What greeted him was like a scene from a nightmare. Ellen lay on the kitchen floor, a 10-inch knife protruding from her chest, surrounded by a pool of blood. Sam's frantic 911 call echoed the sheer horror of what he'd found.
I just walked into my apartment. My fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere.
Police arrived on the scene to find Ellen had been stabbed 20 times, with wounds in her chest, back, and neck. Initially, investigators wavered between and homicide, before ultimately ruling it a. This conclusion stunned her family. How could someone stab themselves as many times as investigators insist that Ellen did? Forensic analysis seemed to deepen the mystery. Only Ellen's DNA was found on the knife and her clothes. The apartment, locked from the inside, showed no signs of forced entry apart from Sam's desperate attempt to get in. The security footage from the building was inconclusive, revealing nothing suspicious. The fresh snow on the balcony was undisturbed, eliminating the possibility of an intruder escaping that way. Further complicating the case were Ellen's recent visits to a psychiatrist. She had been battling anxiety about her career and had been prescribed Klonopin and Ambien, medications known to cause suicidal thoughts. Despite these facts, her family vehemently rejected the ruling. They pointed to Ellen's behavior leading up to her death, filling her gas tank, making a fruit salad, as actions inconsistent with someone planning to end their life. One particularly chilling detail stood out. Some of Ellen's wounds lacked blood, suggesting they were inflicted after her heart had stopped. This, combined with Ellen's multiple bruises at different stages of healing, painted a grim picture. Despite these troubling findings, the official stance remained unchanged. The Greenbergs' quest for justice became a relentless campaign. They fought to have the cause of death reclassified from to either homicide or undetermined. Their persistence led to multiple legal battles, including efforts to obtain and scrutinize the surveillance footage from the apartment complex. While suspicion naturally fell on Sam, he was never arrested or charged in connection with Ellen's death. He moved on with his life, remarried, and started a family. The Greenbergs, however, continue their pursuit, driven by the haunting questions that refuse to fade. What really happened to Ellen Greenberg on that snowy January day? The answer is buried under layers of conjecture and grief. Number 12. The David Animal Killings. In the pastoral landscapes of David, Wales, a chilling mystery unfolds, reminiscent of dark folklore yet deeply rooted in grim reality. The serene Welsh countryside, dotted with farms and usually serene livestock, has become the backdrop for a series of unnerving animal attacks, sparking fears and theories that go beyond the ordinary. As the sun sets over the rolling hills and quiet farms, a sense of unease grows among the local farming community. The eerie silence of the night is broken by the discovery of livestock, mainly sheep, found brutally killed and mutilated. These are not typical predator attacks, which many farmers know and dread. The precision and nature of these killings suggests something more sinister. Farmers, accustomed to the ways of nature and the circle of life, find themselves grappling with the unusual horror of these acts. The animals, integral to their livelihoods and the bucolic harmony of David, are now victims of a seemingly inexplicable cruelty. The police, called to investigate, are equally baffled by the disturbing pattern that emerges. Farmers find the skins of sheep in their fields, with the rest of the animal nowhere in sight. Local authorities and communities are on high alert. David Powys police, delving into the cases, find themselves considering possibilities that stretch the boundaries of typical criminal investigations. Could these acts of violence against animals be a harbinger of something far more menacing? The theory, as unsettling as it is, cannot be ignored. History has shown that some serial killers begin their dark paths with acts of cruelty towards animals. The mystery deepens as each new attack offers few clues and no clear motives. Theories abound in hushed conversations among locals and in the corridors of law enforcement. Some suggest ritualistic activities, others point to a deranged individual taking pleasure in violence, and yet others fear the emergence of a future serial killer. The tranquil Welsh countryside, with its green fields and ancient hills, now harbors a dark secret. The David animal attacks, as they come to be known, are not just isolated incidents of animal cruelty. They are a chilling puzzle that the community and authorities desperately need to solve. With each passing day, the urgency grows to uncover the truth behind these attacks, for the safety of the community, and to bring justice for the innocent animals that have fallen victim to this mystery that baffles investigators. As investigations continue, David remains a landscape where the beauty of nature meets the shadow of an unseen and unsettling presence. The answers, when they come, may reveal more than just the identity of a perpetrator. They may expose the darkest corners of the human psyche. For now, the mystery of the David animal attacks lingers, a haunting reminder of the unknown that lies beneath the surface of rural tranquility. Number 11. Molly Bish. On the morning of June 27, 2000, the small town of Warren, Massachusetts, awoke to a warm, sunny day. 16-year-old Molly Bish was preparing for her shift as a lifeguard at Commons Pond. Her mother, Maggie, drove her to work, just like any other day, unaware that this routine drive would be the last of its kind. As they pulled into the parking lot, Maggie noticed a man with a mustache sitting in a white sedan, watching them intently. She felt uneasy, but she brushed it aside. After all, Warren was a quiet town where everyone knew each other. She kissed her daughter goodbye and drove away. A few hours later, Maggie received a phone call that made her blood run cold. It was the police. They told her that no lifeguard had been on duty at Commons Pond, yet Molly's belongings were still at the lifeguard station, untouched. Maggie's heart sank as she raced back to the pond, where her worst fears began to take shape. The Worcester County Sheriff's Office launched what would become the largest and most expensive missing person search in the state's history. As investigators combed through the area, a local worker came forward, claiming to have seen the same man in the white sedan parked at a nearby cemetery. The cemetery was connected to the pond by a short path. The community rallied, plastering missing persons posters everywhere and holding vigils, hoping for a miracle. Yet despite their efforts, the trail ran cold. Then, 2 years into the investigation, a local hunter stumbled upon a blue bathing suit in the woods of nearby Whiskey Hill, about 20 minutes from Commons Pond. The following spring, he mentioned it to a friend who contacted the police. The authorities swarmed the area, as Molly had been wearing a blue bathing suit the day she disappeared. On June 9, 2003, the search came to a grim conclusion. Molly's remains were discovered about 5 miles from her family's home, scattered and decomposed, making it difficult to determine her exact cause of death. However, it was clear she had been murdered and hastily buried in the woods. The investigation shifted from a search for a missing girl to a hunt for a killer. Suspects came and went, including a man who had been charged with attempted kidnapping in Connecticut, and Rodney Stanger, a convicted murderer who had lived near Warren at the time of Molly's disappearance. Stanger, who drove a white car and frequently fished at Commons Pond, fit the description given by Maggie. Despite his suspicious background, the evidence was not strong enough to charge him. As the anniversary of Molly's disappearance approached, a private investigator made a startling discovery in June of 2014. Underneath a log in the woods near where Molly's remains were found, she uncovered a partially buried bag containing plaid boxer shorts, similar to those Molly had been wearing on the day she disappeared. Surveillance footage from a convenience store captured Molly in those same shorts and a tank top just 13 minutes before she went missing. The video showed her last known movements. The case took another turn in 2021, when Worcester County District Attorney Joseph Early announced a new person of interest, Francis P. Sumner Sr. Sumner had a long criminal history and lived in the area around the time Molly disappeared. Although Sumner had died 5 years earlier, police collected DNA from his son to look for a match. This renewed hope for the Bish family, who believed they might finally be closer to an answer. As the search for justice continues, the town of Warren remains haunted by the unsolved murder of Molly Bish. Her family holds out hope that the truth will eventually come to light. Any information regarding Bish's case can be directed to the Worcester DA at 508-453-7575. Number 10. Rachel Morin. The sun was setting as Rachel Morin, a mother of 5, set out on Bel Air, Maryland's Ma and Pa hiking trail on August 5th, 2023. The trail was familiar to Rachel, but that evening, even after twilight fell, Rachel did not return home. Her mother, Patty Morin, felt uneasy when Rachel didn't come back by nightfall. The trail was supposed to be safe, a place where people walked their dogs and families enjoyed weekend hikes. The next morning, as concern grew, a search party was assembled. It was then that Rachel's naked and battered body was discovered in a dimly lit tunnel along the trail. The scene was horrific, the brutality of the attack unheard of in the small community. 6 months later, the case remained unsolved. Hartford police, in a desperate bid to break the case, released a sketch of the suspected killer. The image was haunting, a face that could belong to anyone. They urged residents to look closely, to remember any detail that might lead to the identification of the murderer. The investigation had been relentless. Detectives uncovered that Rachel's killer might have been lurking around the trail in the days leading up to her murder. Witnesses recalled spotting a man near the path Rachel had taken. His presence, they said, was inexplicably unsettling. It turned out that gut feeling was correct. He was a predator stalking his prey. Further complicating the case, through the crime scene's DNA evidence, Rachel's killer was linked to a home invasion and assault across the country in Los Angeles earlier that year. Another unsolved case. Doorbell cam footage from the California incident showed a man leaving the property, his face captured clearly. This footage was turned into posters and distributed to schools and homes in Los Angeles. Harford County Sheriff Jeff Gawler told reporters, "Someone out there knows who this man is. We need this video in front of that person. He will kill again." Distributing the sketches and posters was a race against time. Rachel's family, devastated by their loss, tirelessly campaigned for justice. They sent letters to high schools, hoping a teacher or a former classmate might recognize the man in the footage. They distributed thousands of flyers near the Los Angeles crime scene, hoping to jog someone's memory. Despite the geographical distance, the link between the two crimes is undeniable beyond the DNA match. The method, the brutality, the randomness, all of this points to a single, dangerous individual. But the $30,000 reward offered for information leading to an arrest remains unclaimed. The sketch, the doorbell cam footage, the DNA link, all of this evidence has yet to come together. In Bel Air, Maryland, the memory of Rachel Morin lives on, with the community united in grief, awaiting the day her killer is finally found and brought to justice. Any information regarding Rachel Morin's case can be directed to the Harford County Sheriff's Office at 410-836-7788. Number 9. The Ghost Army of World War II. The Ghost Army of World War II refers to a unique and secretive unit of the United States Army, known officially as the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. This group, which operated from 1944 until the end of the European War in 1945, comprised more than 1,100 men, many of whom were artists, actors, architects, and engineers. Their mission was singular and highly unconventional for military standards: to deceive and mislead the German army through illusion and artistry, thereby contributing to the Allied victory in Europe. The inception of the Ghost Army, a concept inspired partly by British operations like Operation Bertram during the North Africa campaign, was driven by the realization that traditional combat tactics alone would not ensure victory. The unit was assembled with individuals from various creative backgrounds, recruited for their artistic skills and innovative thinking. They were trained not only in traditional military skills, but also in the arts of deception and subterfuge. The Ghost Army's tactics were diverse and ingeniously crafted. They employed inflatable tanks, planes, jeeps, and artillery pieces, which, from a distance, appeared indistinguishable from real military hardware. These fake armaments were moved from place to place, creating the illusion of significant troop movements where, in reality, there were none. Sound trucks broadcasted pre-recorded sounds of bridges being constructed, tanks moving, and troop activity to further enhance the deception. The unit also used radio deception, transmitting fake communications to mislead enemy eavesdroppers about the Allies' plans. Additionally, members of the Ghost Army would don the uniforms of different U.S. Army units and visit nearby towns, spreading misinformation and rumors about troop movements and military plans. This practice of atmosphere, creating a misleading environment through a combination of visual, auditory, and human intelligence, was crucial to their strategy. The Ghost Army participated in more than 20 operations throughout the European theater, often operating very close to the front lines. Their deceptions were credited with saving thousands of lives by drawing German forces away from actual Allied operations. One of the most notable successes was during Operation Plunder, the crossing of the Rhine River in March 1945, where their efforts contributed to the efficacy of the Allies' surprise crossing. The activities of the Ghost Army were kept under strict secrecy during and long after the war. Many of the unit's members went on to have successful careers in art, design, and entertainment, drawing upon their unique wartime experiences. The story of the Ghost Army remained largely unknown until declassification in the 1990s. And since then, it has been the subject of documentaries, books, and exhibitions. Today, the legacy of the Ghost Army is preserved through the efforts of historians, family members of the veterans, and enthusiasts who seek to recognize and honor the innovative and brave contributions of these soldiers. Efforts have been made to award the unit a Congressional Gold Medal, acknowledging their service and the impact of their unorthodox but highly effective tactics. The story of the Ghost Army showcases the power of creativity in warfare, demonstrating a different kind of bravery and ingenuity that played a vital role in the Allied victory in World War II. Number 8. Anisha Duffy Murnane. The morning of October 17th, 2019 was a great one in Homer, Alaska, when Anisha Duffy Murnane left her home at the Main Tree Apartments. The 38-year-old, who was living independently in the supportive housing facility, was seen on security footage departing for a 1 p.m. appointment. Dressed casually in a blue jacket, nothing seemed amiss with the woman. But that was the last time anyone would see Duffy alive. When Duffy didn't return home, her mother grew worried. Edie had spoken to her daughter that morning, and everything seemed normal. When she learned that Duffy had actually missed her appointment, panic set in. Calls to Duffy's phone went unanswered, and by evening, Edie contacted the Homer Police Department. Lieutenant Ryan Browning led the initial investigation. Search teams scoured the area, using dogs to track Duffy's scent, which led them into downtown Homer. There, the trail abruptly ended, a point known in search and rescue as a car pickup. Browning's team speculated she might have been abducted, but leads were scarce. In February 2020, Dateline featured Duffy's story in their Missing in America series. Despite widespread attention and numerous tips, the investigation hit a wall. Duffy's mother and stepfather feared the worst, that she had been taken against her will. The case remained cold until a breakthrough came on April 14, 2022. A tipster contacted the Homer Police Department, providing a chilling account that pointed directly to a man named Kirby Calderwood. This tip was disturbingly detailed, describing the kidnapping, murder, and disposal of evidence. Calderwood had already been on the radar of investigator Matt Haney since 2021, and now was thrust back into the spotlight. Haney, who had been assigned solely to Duffy's case since joining the department in March 2020, compiled an affidavit for Calderwood's arrest. The document painted a dark picture of Calderwood's past, revealing allegations of rape and violence leveled by his previous wives. He had confessed to them his addictions and his disturbing lack of remorse, suggesting he might be a sociopath. Calderwood had moved to Alaska from Utah after a failed marriage and had lived in Homer for several years. In the months surrounding Duffy's disappearance, his behavior grew increasingly suspicious. After returning from a trip she took shortly after Duffy went missing, his then-girlfriend found her home reeking of bleach. Bleach-stained towels and a bag containing bloodied items, including her knitting needles, further heightened her unease. She recalled that confronting Calderwood about these discoveries led to explosive anger. On May 5, 2022, a coordinated effort between the Homer Police and the Ogden, Utah Police Department culminated in Calderwood's arrest. A search of his vehicle and residence yielded critical evidence. A small lady's Timex watch, matching the description of Duffy's, found in his dresser drawer. This final nail in the coffin was provided by an anonymous tipster, Calderwood's current wife, who came forward the next day. She described Calderwood's confessions about the heinous acts he committed against Duffy, including how he disposed of her phone and body. Her courage in speaking out against a violent man finally brought justice to a case that had remained mysterious for nearly 3 years. In a Facebook post made on May 9, 2022, the Homer Police Department announced Calderwood's arrest. The message conveyed their commitment to justice and extended heartfelt sympathies to Duffy's family. The once quiet town of Homer was left grappling with the unsettling revelation that one of their own had committed such a monstrous act. But monsters walk among us. Thankfully, this one was finally brought to justice. Number 7. The disappearance of Frederick Valentich. Frederick Valentich's story begins in Melbourne, Australia, where he was born to Italian immigrants in June 1958. Growing up in a supportive family environment, Frederick developed a keen interest in aviation from a young age, dreaming of becoming a professional pilot. Despite his passion, his journey into the field was marked by challenges. Valentich struggled academically, failing multiple examinations and receiving criticism for his flying abilities. However, these setbacks did not deter him. They only fueled his determination to succeed. By the time of his disappearance, Valentich had accumulated about 150 hours of flying time. He was working part-time at an army barracks to support his flying lessons, and had aspirations of joining the Royal Australian Air Force. However, his applications were rejected due to his insufficient educational qualifications and poor flying record. Undeterred, Valentich continued flying, hoping to improve his skills and eventually reapply to the RAAF. On October 21, 1978, Valentich embarked on a routine flight from Moorabbin Airport in Melbourne to King Island, a small island located in the Bass Strait between Victoria and Tasmania. The weather conditions were favorable, and nothing seemed amiss when he left at 6:19 p.m. However, during the flight, Valentich contacted Melbourne Air Traffic Control to report an unidentified aircraft that seemed to be following him. His descriptions of the craft were perplexing. He claimed it was flying at high speeds, had unusual lights, and was orbiting above him. His last known words, "It's not an aircraft," were followed by a mysterious, metallic scraping sound before the transmission abruptly ended. The disappearance prompted an extensive air, sea, and land search covering over 1,000 square miles. Despite these widespread efforts, no trace of Valentich or his Cessna 182 was ever found. The official investigation by the Department of Transport concluded that the reasons behind the disappearance could not be determined. The report suggested that Valentich might have become disoriented and lost control of his aircraft, leading to a fatal crash into the sea. But this was speculative, as no debris or evidence of a crash was ever discovered. Over time, several theories have emerged regarding Valentich's fate. Some speculate that he staged his disappearance or committed suicide, although these theories are contradicted by reports of his known character and life plans. Others suggest he may have been disoriented, mistaking the planet Venus or another natural phenomenon for an extraterrestrial craft, leading to a state of panic and eventual crash. The most sensational theory, fueled by Valentich's own interest in UFOs and the content of his final transmission, is that he encountered an extraterrestrial spacecraft, leading to his abduction. In the years following Valentich's disappearance, the case has remained a topic of interest for aviation experts, UFO enthusiasts, and the general public. It has sparked debates, documentaries, and articles, each exploring a different facet of the mystery. Despite the passage of time, new evidence has been scant, and the case remains as unsolved as ever. Today, the disappearance of Frederick Valentich is still shrouded in mystery, with no concrete answers to the many questions it raises. His family, while having accepted his loss, still seek closure and answers to what happened on that fateful night. The Valentich case remains one of Australia's most enduring aviation mysteries, a poignant reminder of the complexities and unknowns of both human experience and the vast skies above. Number 6. The vanishing hotel ghosts of the Hotel del Salto. Perched precariously on the edge of Tequendama Falls, El Hotel del Salto is a place that has captivated imaginations and ignited rumors of the supernatural for decades. Built in 1928 along the Bogota River, this once luxurious resort was a go-to for the elites, offering stunning views and opulent accommodations. However, as the years rolled on, river pollution caused the waterfall to diminish, leading to the hotel's decline and eventual closure in the 1990s. Despite its abandonment, the allure of El Hotel del Salto has only grown stronger, drawing thrill-seekers and paranormal enthusiasts from all corners of the globe. Its corridors are now filled not with the laughter of the affluent, but with tales of ghostly apparitions, tragic and sinister rituals. Those who dare explore its grounds speak of eerie screams echoing from the falls, the ghostly figure of the hotel's former owner wandering the halls, and whispers of black magic sacrifices in the shadowy corners of this once grand establishment. Some even claim to hear loud cries from inside the hotel after sunset. Legends say that the Muisca, the people indigenous to the area, would throw themselves off the picturesque waterfall in order to escape Spanish conquistadors who would seize native people for nefarious purposes. Are these stories true? Are the mysterious screams and cries coming from the vanishing hotel guests of Hotel del Salto? Or are they lingering echoes of the indigenous people who once inhabited this land? There is no denying the harrowing atmosphere that envelops El Hotel del Salto. Stepping inside is like entering a forgotten world, where the ghosts of the past linger amidst the dust and decay. The opulence that once defined the hotel is still visible in the elegant chandeliers, grand fireplaces, and intricate frescoes adorning the ceilings. Yet this luxury is juxtaposed with the scars of neglect, debris, broken glass, and graffiti. In recent years, efforts have been made to restore and repurpose this enigmatic location. Now known as the Casa Museo del Salto del Tequendama, the hotel has been transformed into a museum dedicated to the biodiversity and culture of the Tequendama Falls region. The restoration, which cost $410,000, has breathed new life into the structure, preserving its historical significance while offering a more structured and informative visitor experience. Yet, even with its new guise, the mystery and allure of El Hotel del Salto remain. The stories that surround it, whether born of truth or imagination, continue to draw those who are fascinated by the unknown. Number 5. The Lead Coffins of Arthur's Seat. In the summer of 1836, a most peculiar discovery was made on the slopes of Arthur's Seat, a prominent hill that towers over the city of Edinburgh. The day began innocuously enough when a group of young boys, seeking adventure, stumbled upon a small cave hidden within the crags. Inside, they uncovered something unexpected and chilling. 17 tiny coffins, each meticulously crafted and eerily adorned. The coffins, carved from wood and each measuring only a few inches in length, were arranged in 3 tiers within the cave. Each contained a miniature figure, dressed in custom-tailored clothing, which lay within as if in a state of eternal rest. The careful craftsmanship suggested a purposeful and solemn intention behind their creation and placement, igniting immediate speculation and mystery around their origin and meaning. Theories circulated as to the purpose and origin of these miniature coffins. Some posited they were part of a dark and sinister ritual conducted by a cult or even witches. Others speculated they were keepsakes to memorialize the dead, perhaps created in the image of loved ones lost at sea, as families of sailors often did not have a grave to visit. Yet another theory linked them to the infamous Burke and Hare murders, which had taken place locally less than a decade before, with proponents of the theory suggesting that the coffins might be effigies for the victims of the notorious killers, a tangible representation of lives snatched away and unavenged. As the news of the discovery spread, the coffins quickly became enshrined in local lore. Edinburgh, with its dark past and Gothic architecture, provided the perfect backdrop for such a mysterious find, and speculation and debate about the coffins has run rampant in the city. In the years following their discovery, the coffins seemed to raise more questions than answers. Was there significance to the number or the way they were arranged? The craftsmanship pointed to considerable time and effort spent on each figure. Who would dedicate so much care to such macabre artifacts, and why? As time passed, many of the original coffins were lost or destroyed, leaving only 8, which now reside in the collections of the National Museum of Scotland. These surviving pieces continue to be objects of fascination and study, offering tantalizing clues, yet withholding their full story. Modern forensic and historical research has shed light on some aspects of the coffins, suggesting that they were created around the time of the Burke and Hare murders, which took place in 1828. Yet all that has been found only deepened the mystery, rather than dispel it. The lead coffins of Arthur's Seat remain one of Edinburgh's most enduring riddles. Are they memorials to lost souls, tokens of witchcraft, or relics from a forgotten crime? The true purpose and origin of these miniature coffins may never be fully understood, and this captivating puzzle from the past continues to enthrall historians and amateur enthusiasts alike. Number 4. Hop Newen. In the quiet neighborhood of Lancaster Drive in Grand Prairie, Texas, all seemed still as the clock struck 10:30 p.m. However, evil was brewing. Hop Newen, a 32-year-old man known for his friendly demeanor and sharp wit, was about to vanish without a trace. Hop's white Nissan 350Z convertible was seen driving onto Texas State Highway 161, exiting from Lower Tarrant Road. There was no further footage of the vehicle that night. He had always been punctual and responsible, so when his family realized he hadn't returned home, worry quickly set in. His sister, Jenny Newen, had spent the night pacing the living room, her mind racing to worst-case scenarios. By the morning, their family friend was with her, both of them trying to piece together Hop's last known movements. they decided to review the security footage from the camera outside Hop's front door, hoping it might offer some clue. Jenny clicked through the footage. At first, nothing seemed amiss, but then, as the video progressed to the time just before his disappearance, their hearts sank. The footage showed an unknown figure approaching the front door. The person was deliberately cautious, their face obscured by a hood. The figure placed a piece of paper over the camera, blocking the view. There was a brief moment of muffled sounds, possibly the door being opened, before the screen went dark. The implications were terrifying. Someone had intentionally hidden their identity before entering Hop's home, and now he was gone. Detectives were called in. They combed through the footage, but the obscure figure offered no clear leads. While they hadn't yet confirmed foul play, the evidence pointed to something more sinister than a simple disappearance. Hop's family and friends mobilized, sharing his image across social media. They described him in detail: a 5'7" Vietnamese-American man, weighing about 165 pounds, with brown eyes and short black hair. He had a distinctive scar behind his right ear and a half-sleeve dragon tattoo on his right arm. On his right inner arm, he bore the letters TFT, and he was missing the tip of his right index finger. The community was on high alert, but each lead ended in disappointment. Hop's Nissan 350Z was also missing, adding another obstacle to solving the mystery. The car was later found abandoned, but there was no significant evidence inside that would lead to Hop. Who was the mysterious figure on the camera? What had happened to Hop after that footage cut off? Theories abounded, but there were few answers. The Grand Prairie Police continued their investigation, but as time passed, the case began to grow cold. Hop's family urged anyone with information to come forward, holding on to the belief that somewhere, someone knew something that could help bring Hop back to them. Any information about the case can be directed to the Grand Prairie Police at 972-237-8750. Number 3. The Phantom Barber of Pascagoula. In the year 1942, the small town of Pascagoula, Mississippi, found itself in the grip of a peculiar and unsettling mystery. This was the year of the Phantom Barber, who left the town's residents in a state of fear and bewilderment. This unusual intruder's modus operandi was not theft, and did not begin with violence in the traditional sense, but something far stranger. He broke into homes late at night to cut the hair of sleeping women and girls, leaving behind nothing but locks of hair as evidence of his presence. The Phantom Barber's reign of bizarre terror began in earnest in mid-June 1942. In a single week, 3 young girls became his victims. 11-year-old Mary Evelyn Briggs and 12-year-old Edna Marie Heidel were the first to experience this strange intrusion. They were asleep in their room at the Our Lady of Victory's convent when an unknown person entered and snipped off chunks of their hair. The next victim was 6-year-old Carol Petty, who awoke to find a lock of her blonde curls had been cut, with the only clue left behind being a sandy footprint left on an empty bed in her room. The community was understandably alarmed. Police Chief A.W. Ezel was perplexed, admitting he couldn't fathom the motivation behind such odd crimes. In response, the police offered a $300 reward for information leading to the capture of this elusive barber, later increased to $400 with contributions from local businesses and officials. Despite increased patrols and relaxed Army dim-out regulations, the Phantom Barber seemed to move through Pascagoula after dark with ease, his identity and intentions a complete mystery. The situation escalated when Miss R.E. Taylor became the Phantom Barber's next victim. Unlike the young girls, she was an adult woman who reported feeling something pass over her face in the night. She woke up to find her hair cut and suspected that chloroform had been used to keep her unconscious during the act. The community's fear intensified when on the night of June 13th, Mr. and Mrs. Terrell Heidelberg were brutally attacked in their home. They were beaten with an iron pipe while sleeping, a violent escalation that differed from the Phantom Barber's previous haircutting intrusions. This attack led to speculation that the Phantom Barber was evolving into more violent crimes. In late July, the police arrested William A. Dolan, a 57-year-old chemist, in connection with the Phantom Barber crimes. Dolan, who had previously been arrested for trespassing and had disagreements with the Heidelberg family, became a prime suspect. Human hair was reportedly found behind his house, and authorities speculated that his actions were intended to demoralize war workers, possibly due to alleged sympathies towards Germany. Dolan was charged with attempted murder in connection with the attack on the Heidelbergs, but was not charged for the haircutting incidents. His arrest brought temporary relief to the town, but he maintained his innocence. Eventually, he was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison, only to be released 10 years later after a review of his case. The question of whether William A. Dolan was indeed the Phantom Barber of Pascagoula remains unanswered. His association with the case continued, especially as the late-night haircutting incidents ceased after his arrest. Despite this, the Phantom Barber case remains officially unsolved, a peculiar footnote in the history of Pascagoula, leaving behind a legacy of fear, intrigue, and unanswered questions. This bizarre series of events remains a topic of speculation and mystery, a strange chapter in the history of American crime. Number 2. The Toynbee Tiles. The Toynbee Tiles are a fascinating urban mystery that has intrigued the public and conspiracy theorists alike for decades. The tiles consist of linoleum messages found embedded in the asphalt of streets in various major cities across the United States and 4 South American capitals. The tiles typically bear cryptic messages referring to resurrecting the dead on planet Jupiter, based on an interpretation of Arnold Toynbee's philosophical ideas and the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. The first reported sightings of these tiles date back to the early 1980s, primarily in Philadelphia. However, since then, they have been discovered in numerous other cities, including New York, Boston, Washington, D.C., and Chicago, among others. The most common inscription found on these tiles reads, "Toynbee idea in Kubrick's 2001, resurrect dead on planet Jupiter." The origin and purpose of these tiles remain a mystery, but they are generally believed to be the work of an unknown individual or group, with obvious influences from the historian Arnold J. Toynbee and filmmaker Stanley Kubrick. The Toynbee reference is thought to be connected to Toynbee's theory that societies must continually die and be reborn to survive, while the Kubrick reference is to his film 2001: A Space Odyssey, which features themes of space exploration and human evolution. One theory suggests that the tiles are the work of a single individual, a Philadelphia carpenter named James Marasco, who was said to have had strong beliefs in resurrection and was known to have contacted talk shows and newspapers to discuss his theories in the 1980s. Moreover, Marasco died in the early 2000s, and new tiles have continued to appear. Some speculate that tiles are a form of guerrilla art or a vast, unsanctioned public art project. The secretive placement of the tiles and their cryptic message suggest an individual or group using public space to communicate a philosophical or metaphysical idea without seeking permission or recognition. The documentary Resurrect Dead: The Mystery of the Toynbee Tiles, released in 2011, follows a group of Toynbee tile enthusiasts who delve deep into this urban mystery. They propose several theories about the tile's creator and his methods, but ultimately leave the mystery unsolved. Despite these efforts, The creator or creators of the Toynbee tiles and their full intentions remain unknown. The tiles continue to be a subject of fascination, inspiring both admiration and confusion. They have become part of urban folklore, embodying the human desire for mystery, the unexplained, and the power of anonymous public expression. As of today, new tiles continue to appear, although they differ slightly in style and message, indicating that the original tiler may no longer be active, or that copycats have taken up the cause. The mystery of the Toynbee tiles remains unsolved, captivating the imagination of those who stumble upon them, and those who seek them out as part of an urban treasure hunt spanning continents. Number 1. Brian Dos Santos. On a balmy afternoon in Fort Myers, Florida, Maria de Fatima Ramos dos Santos stood at a bus stop, cradling her 3-week-old son, Brian, in her arms. Beside her, waiting for the approaching bus, stood her friend. It seemed to be a normal day, until something completely unexpected unfolded. The scene was right out of a parent's worst nightmare. A black SUV rumbled to a halt beside them, its windows tinted against the glare of the sun. From within emerged a Hispanic woman, her voice urgent as she sought directions to Pine Manor. Maria and her friend kindly tried to help her. It seemed a simple enough thing to do. And when the bus they were waiting for arrived, Maria and her friend boarded as normal. Little did they know, things weren't normal. The woman in the SUV trailed behind in pursuit. Once they departed the bus, Maria and her friend were greeted once again by the strange woman who seemed desperate. She even offered them money in exchange for guidance. All too trusting, Maria and her friend accepted the invitation, entering the SUV where they began to feel some apprehension. Their gut feeling was warranted. In the blink of an eye, the atmosphere shifted as the strange woman drew a knife and ordered Maria and her friend out of the vehicle. As the SUV sped away, Brian remained captive. Before departing, the kidnapper seized Maria's cell phone, leaving behind a cryptic message she left at a local business that said, "Go to Pine Manor. You go to Pine Manor, 11th Street. Oh, okay. But how long will it be before you get here? Because I have to take the girls back. Okay. I'll call you back. Okay. All right. Okay. Bye-bye." The kidnapper called this number twice, leaving investigators to believe she was familiar with it. As the investigation wore on, theories of human trafficking fueled speculation surrounding the search for Brian. In fact, 4 hours prior to Brian's abduction, the same woman in the SUV attempted the same scheme on a grandmother with her infant grandchild. When this attempt failed, she continued in pursuit of another victim. The motive of this kidnapper is still unknown. Was it kidnapping to raise the child as her own? Human trafficking? Detectives still do not know for sure. And 17 years on, Brian's fate remains unknown. Information about this missing person can be directed to Fort Myers Police Department, 239-321-7700.